All right, good morning, everyone. This is the conclusion of our comprehensive training program, initial one, or inaugural one, however you want to call it. And this concludes the product lines as we've gone through each one of them. And Scott, what is today's subject?
100 series, 300 series, and vinyl rooms.
100 series, 300 series, and vinyl rooms. So today's training will encompass all three of those product lines. Just wanted to thank everyone for coming out and for participating in our training program, because we, like we said before, want to stress the importance of us all being on one page and being consistent in what we do. Like we said before, if we are making mistakes, if we're doing it right, we all want to do it wrong or all want to do it right, so we can make corrections and be on the same page and produce a consistent product for our customers, and high quality and consistent. So that is the purpose of our training, and I want to thank everyone again for participating. And for now, we'll turn it over to Scott Eastman.
We're going to start off by just going over the standard operation procedures, the first page for your in your booklet. And we're just going to go over them real quick. Standard operation procedures and our governing principles. Hopefully we all know our governing principles by now, but own excellence, invite trust and respect through action, maximize time, energy, and resources, seek understanding first in all ways, preserve dignity and honor, uphold integrity, move towards the goals of the team, and build camaraderie through fun. Okay. Just always try to keep that stuff in mind, man, when we're working and whatever we're doing. I'm actually going to skip past the vinyl room. The vinyl room installation is on the paperwork, but we need to turn to the 100 series installation procedures. It should be on the bottom. It starts on the bottom of page 3. Okay. Like I said, I'm going to read over this, and we'll end up going back over the standard operating procedures in the booklet itself. But 100 series installation, read the work order, all of it, understand it, know what we're looking at. You want to load the material, double check all the materials with the work order, make sure you have all your materials and fasteners and everything you need, and prepare the job site. Once you get to the job site, you obviously prepare the job site and install a level rail. We have 4 different types of level rail that we're going to install. We have the L-to-L rail, extruded bases, siding mount, and corner transitions. All of those things we'll be talking about in the procedures, installation procedures, in the actual demonstration. The stair rail installation, how to install extruded bases, and the siding mount post, how to go about doing that. The 100 series top cap, whether it's square ends, cornered ends, or your transitions, whether it's the upper part of the stairs or the bottom part of the stairs. That's usually where our transitions are. And we get the nut covers and touch up, wipe down, and clean up. Those are all the final stages of installing the rail. The 100 series codes and requirements. A lot of them are the same as our 200 series rail. Residential height's 36 inches, commercial height's 42. The triangle space between the BC and the step must reject a 6-inch sphere. The space between the pickets must reject a 4-inch sphere. And the standard toe kick on the 100 series is 2.5 inches. That's different than what we've done in the past. We've changed that because of our new A20 bases. I'll explain more of that later as we go. So I'd like for you to turn to your the SOP operating procedures, the main page, the booklet.
Is that on here or not?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
It may be. I'm not really sure. I don't usually look back. But I don't know if it is or not. So we'll go right at the beginning. Step 1: read your work order prior to leaving AAP. Review the layout, location, and special notes, and etc. Just always read over the front of the work order to make sure there's any special material, fasteners, extension ladders, anything special that you got to have to do the job or complete the job should be on the front of the work order or on the bottom of the page of the front work order. Review the layout, location, special notes, etc. You are responsible to make sure that all times that all items that are needed are loaded onto your truck. Okay, that's with any of the jobs. We just need to make sure we have all the materials, all the right fasteners, all the right tools, all the right equipment, and the right address. We've been having problems with some of the new guys following and finding the job sites, believe it or not. So understand where you're going too. When you get to the job, you want to prepare the installation site. Just review it. Look and see, if there's any obstacles or if there's certain areas you need to start first. Make contact with the job site superintendent to confirm as where you will be starting. You may want to start on stairs or something like that. He may want you to start on the level balconies or so you need to contact the superintendent just to find out exactly where he wants you to start or where you need to start, so you're both on the same page. Upon arrival, confirm that the job site is properly prepared for the installation. That's pretty much just making sure that all the columns and posts or what have you, the stairs are in, your blocking's in. If not, we need to rectify the situation, talking to the superintendent, make sure we can get them installed and so we can do our job as efficient as possible. Okay, confirm, stage the individual rails in the correct locations based on the work order. Like I said, you have to review your work order and understand where it's at to know the locations of your rail. Just try to stage them in the areas that that's convenient for you to get to, so you don't have to go back and forth to the trucks or up and down the stairs too far. Just get them as close as you can to your work locations in the areas where they're going to be installed. Find the power source, or use a generator. Run the necessary amount of power cords to the top of the stairwell. If applicable, always install from the top down. I think we talked about that before when we were doing 200 series rail. You always want to start at the top of your stairs and work your way down. Okay. Just remember, sometimes if you're using a generator, it's not good to stretch the cord over 100 feet. So try to get the generator as close as possible so you minimize the length of cord that you're running off the generator. If you can, sometimes you can't. Okay, take all the tools needed and fastener tray to the installation site. Just make sure you have all the proper tools, the fasteners and everything. Get them up there where you're going to start working, and minimize the trips back and forth to the truck. Okay, step 4, which would be the level rail, the L to L bracket rail. Measure up from the deck 2 inches and add the depth of the bottom channel to the screw balls to make the horizontal mark on each post. Okay, what that's telling you is it should be 2.5 inches. He didn't correct that. So we're going to measure up 2.5 inches because that's our toe kick. Okay, and we're going to add the depth of the bottom channel to that measurement. So if it's 2.5 inches, you're going to add 5/8 of an inch for the small BC bottom channel. which will put it at 3 1/8, and that you'll put a 3 1/8 inch mark on your posts all the way around. If you have multiple posts in a line, mark each end, snap a line, transfer the lines around with a square to make sure all the lines, L brackets sit level. So I'll read that over again. Measure up from the bottom of the deck 2 1/2 inches, it should be. Add the depth of the bottom channel to the screw balls and make the horizontal mark on each post. So, because each bottom channel is a different size, so you got to add that to your 2 1/2 inches to set the L bracket at the right height. Okay. Line up the top of the L bracket with the mark, and then fasten with the stainless steel Tex or frame screws or what have you. It just depends on what you're attaching to. Okay. Do this on both sides or all your posts. Set the piece of rail on the brackets and fasten it down with a 1-inch Tech on each side of the bottom channel through the pilot holes. From the deck to the bottom of the bottom channel must be no more than 2 1/2 inches unless otherwise noted on the work order. So that you're going to end up being your standard toe case is your 2 1/2 inches. Okay. So if you take 2 1/2 and you add the depth of your bottom channel, which either small BC or large BC or medium, whatever you have, and you add that to your 2 1/2, that'll be the top height of your L brackets. That's where you'll mount them, and then you'll sit your rail, fit your rail, and take it down to the top of the L brackets. Okay. Level the rail and then fasten the snap plate to the post using the L brackets on the top. With the fold over, we're going to use 2 Techs. Most of you understand what a fold over is because you guys work in the shop, right? You know what a fold over is? Okay. The fold over is used on the tops of the stairs in locations where it's not really practical to use an L bracket because it almost aligns with the top cap and you can't really secure an L bracket into a piece of top cap. So that's why we use a fold over in those locations. Okay, place the correct rail in its proper location based on the work order. This is for the extruded bases. Pre-drill through the pilot holes on the base with a 3/8 drill bit. For wood, be sure that you drill directly into the center of the fluid joist. Always got to be aware of what you're drilling into. One thing that's not on here that I do want to emphasize is if we're doing balconies or decks, you're going to measure off the edges of the decks 8 inches all the way around. Okay, 8 inches, and you'll snap lines, and that's where you're going to set the inside of your bases to align your rails. Okay, whether it's wood or concrete. So you know your standard is to measure in 8 inches off the edges all the way around, snap your lines, and that's what you line the edge of your base, foot of your base to keep your rail straight.
The inside of the base.
The inside foot of the base, yes. That's it. That's a standard way to install. Sometimes on wood applications, we have to go out further, and the size of the rail will dictate that to where we're hitting either into the outside band or the band next in, the center of your band board. So we just got to be aware of where the rail is actually going to mount it in the proper position. Okay, so I'll read that again. Pre-drill through the pilot holes on the base with a 3/8 drill bit. For the wood, make sure you drill directly into the center of the floor joist or the edge of the band or your nailer. Using a 1/2 inch by 4.5 inch, 4-inch galvanized lags for concrete. Hold on, excuse me. Using 1/2 inch by 4-inch galvanized lags, fasten down the rail. For concrete, use the 1/2 inch by 4-inch wedge bolts or stud anchors. We'll be using stud anchors too for concrete. Okay, that should be something that's added in there. So we're either going to be using 1/2 inch lags that are 4.5 inches long, or we're going to be using wedge bolts or stud anchors if you're going into concrete that are 1/2 inch by 4 inch. So just be aware of what's on the work order and what you're fastening to and what fastener you need to be using.
Galvanize a new standard.
It's job specific. But we've been using galvanized a lot. So I mean, it's not really a standard yet, because we still use the stainless steel. That's mainly the standard. Okay, so level the rail as needed by tightening either lag or bolt on each side. Level it as necessary using the shims. Okay, siding mount. Use a 2.5-inch 200 series post to set underneath the rail. That gives you your toe kick for your 2.5-inch. The siding mount fastened to the wall with the 3 stainless steel 3-inch screws. Measure up from the bottom of the siding channel 3 inches and place your first screw. Do the same thing from the top. Place the third screw in the center. There's a couple things that's not on here that I do want to talk about. If you're doing your siding mount and we're attaching to siding, a lot of times that's where we're going to be attaching to. You need to attach to the high side of the ribs. You know, the rib on the siding that sticks out the furthest. You don't want to attach or drill through the low spot. You don't want to see the screw behind the BC. I'll point that out and demonstrate that a little more on the demonstration. Okay, fasten the wall with the 3 stainless steel screws, 3-inch screws. Measure up from the bottom of the siding. Measure up from the bottom of the siding mount 3 inches and place your first screw. Do the same from the top, then place the third screw in the middle. For your corner transitions, for 90 transition, bring the 245 top snaps together. Fasten the top plate to the post. Connect with a 90-degree corner key and 2 mill finish stainless techs. They're pretty self-explanatory. They have their holes already pre-drilled in them. For the corners, you can see the different styles of keys that we have down there. We just want to make sure that we use mill finish techs and screws and stuff, because you don't see them anyway, so it doesn't matter. You know, you don't want to use painted ones.
To make sure the screws are inside the post.
Yeah, we do need to make sure that the screws end up inside the post, whether we're doing straight. A lot of times if we're doing connecting 2 pieces of rail together with the straight keys, you guys ain't paying attention and they'll drill right through and it'll be right beside the post instead of inside the post. So we need to make sure that the holes in the keys, especially in the straight keys, align over top of the post, and you use the correct hole to put the tech inside the post to hide it. The 45 keys and the 90 keys will pretty much keep the tech right inside the post. Okay, so connect the corners with a 90 key and the 2 mill finish stainless techs. For a 45 transition, do the same thing with a 45-degree key. Okay, then we're going to talk about stair rail installation. Set the rail in their correct locations. You need to know exactly where that top post is going to land. Sometimes it's written on the work order, or you have to align it up with another piece of rail. So you need to make sure that rail is set in the correct location. For the side mount at the top, level the rail and measure up from the bottom, the mounting surface, which is the deck, to the bottom of the post, and that'll give you your length the height that you need to cut off your top post. Make the rest of the post the same length, marked and cut. After the posts are cut on the extruded, put on the extruded bases, but do not fasten them to the post at this time. We're going to double check ourselves. Dry fit the rail before tightening the bolt and lock nut. So what we're saying here is cut your rail to, fit it, put your bases on and then we're going to dry fit it in place before we drill our holes for our base bolt, in case you got to make any kind of adjustments to the height or what have you. Once that's correct, then you can go ahead and drill your base bolt holes, throw your insert in, and bolt it and tighten it. So then, after the posts are cut, put on the extruded bases. Do not fasten the base to the post. Dry fit the rail before tightening the bolt and lock nut. Pre-drill the holes for the lags and the mounting surface with a 3/8 drill bit, and using a 1/2 inch by 4.5 inch lags, fasten down the rail. That should be bolts instead of lags, or well, I guess either one. Okay, in the top cap, we have the square end. Make sure you have the correct type of top cap. Okay, everybody knows the difference, A1, A2, 3, 4, what have you, right color, right kind, whether it's standard finish or a Con R, or if we have, we have that XL finish too. So just make sure you got the right type. It's easy to get mixed up if the new, a lot of the new guys ain't sure what they're grabbing or what they have or what the difference is. Okay, so make sure you have the correct type of top cap. Refer to the work order. Measure the top snap and add an 1/8 inch to the measurement and cut. That's for level rails, dead end to dead end, not in between posts. Give you a 1/16 of an inch overhang on each end to allow for the end caps to snap in. When snapping on the top cap, make sure that it hangs over 1/16 of an inch on either side of the rail. Pre-drill pop rivet holes above each post on the sides with an 1/8 inch drill bit and install the pop rivets. We want to make sure that we're drilling by the post on each end, and if it has center posts or multiple posts, we want to put a pop rivet on the center of the post on either side of it. Don't want to really expand too far. You don't just want to, if you got a 10-foot rail, you just don't want to pop it on each end. You want to put something in the middle too, because the rail can pop loose. Okay, and apply a sealant adhesive to the inside of the top cap and the top snap, and then put the end caps in. We want to make sure that we put it inside the top cap and inside on the snaps. So that makes it so when you go to snap those caps and the end caps in, it doesn't make a big mess, ooze all out, onto the top cap or on the rail. Sometimes, you have to put it on the cap and snap it in. You just have to be aware of your situation, and 9 times out of 10 you can put it inside the rail and on the top snap and snap your cap in, and it doesn't make as mess. But if you have to put it on the end cap and then stick the end cap in, just make sure you minimize the ooze out, because it creates a mess and it doesn't look good. Okay. Corners for the top cap corners. When top capping a corner rail, divide the angle degree by 2. The question you come up with will be the angle you need to make each cut. So if we're doing 90-degree corners, you're gonna cut 2 45-degree angles. You're gonna have a left and a right. It says right there, for example, if you're doing a 90-degree corner, 90 divided by 2 gives you 45, and you'll cut each piece at a 45-degree angle. For 45-degree corners, you're going to divide that by 2, it's going to give you 22.5. Okay, just be aware of your angles. We don't always do perfect angles. Sometimes we got 35, or what have you, but they'll be on the work order, so you'll know the angle. If not, you can pull your angle finder out and check them. But most of our corners will be either 90 or 45s. It's pretty simple. Follow the steps, 6-1, 6-5. 615 and 616 to make sure you have all that correct. I'll show you a little bit more on how to cut, the best way to cut this top cap and to cut to trim it, the inside edge, so it fits properly. Okay, in the transitional stair rail, follow the same rule as 6.21, divide the angle by degree by 2, and follow the steps 6.1.5 and 6.1.6. Once you have that done, you're obviously going to pop rivet it and do your end caps. Once all the rails installed, you got all your top cap on, then we're going to go to installing the nut covers, touch it up, wipe down and clean it. Wipe down all the rails with the spray away. The spray away will clean this white rail like it's brand spanking new. It's awesome stuff. And the more you rub on it, the cleaner it gets. You don't have to overdo it because it does come off real easy. But we do need to make sure we clean the rail. If we're doing black rail or bronze rail, we do need to minimize the amount of spray away we use on the rail because it does leave streaks on it. So you have to be careful. But the white, it doesn't show up as good. And it does clean it and takes all the marks that you get from the aluminum shavings rubbing on the rail and the top cap and everything from the install, transportation, and us installing it in the field. So just be aware how you're cleaning it. Using the touch-up paint lightly, apply lightly where needed. You want to make sure you touch up, your pop rivets, the ends of your top cap where your corners and transitions are. You're gonna file them and touch them up and paint them. All your screws and everything need to be touched up. Just makes an overall better finish. And last thing, I'll just read over the code and requirements again for the 100 series rail, the standards. The standard toe kick is 2.5 inches. The minimum residential height is 36. Minimum commercial height is 42. The triangle space between the BC and the stairs must reject a 6-inch sphere. All vertical spacing must reject a 4-inch sphere. And to mount the rail to the deck, we're going to use 1/2 inch by 4.5 inch lags, or a 3 3/4 inch stud anchor, or a 4-inch wedge bolt. Okay, you all know the difference between a wedge bolt and a stud anchor. If not, I have one right here. That's all there is. The stud anchor has a collar on it. It's just a stud. And the wedge anchor, this is a 3/8 one. We have 1/2 inch ones. It's threaded all the way. Okay, the wedge bolt is threaded all the way. So it'll actually hold all the way down, a total 4 inches into the concrete, where this 1/2 inch stud anchor has a collar on it. And when you tighten it up, it pulls and locks into the concrete. So actually, the only thing holding it in is just this collar. So you have to make sure they really lock in. But those are the two things. And obviously a lag, a 1/2 inch by 4.5 inch lag. Stainless is the standard. We'll use galvanized if it's job specific. We've been getting half and half. Some stainless, some's galvanized. But the standard is going to be our 4.5 inch, 1/2 inch lag. Okay, everyone, we're getting ready to start the demonstration of the 100 series rail. We're going to start with the L to L installation, the L bracket to L bracket installation. This is a typical piece of L to L rail. No posts on it, obviously. I actually have the L brackets attached to the top. They don't come that way. So what we're going to do, the first thing we need to do is to measure 2.5 inches plus the depth of our bottom channel, whether it be 1/2 inch or small BC, medium, or large BC, depending on the style of the rail. Okay, so this application we have a small BC. We're going to take 2.5 inches and add 5/8 of an inch, because that's the depth from the bottom edge of the rail to the screw balls, and we'll make our marks on our post. 3 1/8. Because that's our measurement that we have, and we'll put our mark on the post. Okay. If we have multiple posts, we need to make sure we mark them all the same all the way around.
Can you demonstrate on the other side, please?
All right. Let me take that off. We're just going to make sure we mark up 3 1/8 of an inch. 2.5 plus 5/8 is 3 1/8. Set the top of the L bracket to that mark. And we're attaching to these vinyl sleeves, so we're using some frame screws. Just have to be aware of what you're attaching to, whether it's aluminum, wood, vinyl. Just use the proper screw to attach. once you attach both of your bottom L brackets, just make sure they sit level. You don't want them up or down. It affects the height of the rail. So just make sure they're sitting level. You can just tap them with your rubber hammer or a regular hammer. Then you'll take your rail. The rail is measured to fit between the columns. Sometimes they're a little tight or what have you. And we'll just take the rail and hold it up against the post and mark the rail to be cut. If it's too tight, we'll mark the BCs on the side to fit in between the posts. We want it tight as possible, but we don't want it so tight that we're putting it in, we're scratching or scarring up the post surface. So just be aware of that. And then once we have the rail cut the size to fit, check it, line it up on your L brackets and make sure, drop it all the way down. Keep your rail centered of your L bracket and your posts, and then we'll attach the rail to the L bracket with a 5/16 tack. And in this case, it's going to be a white tack. We just tack it right down using the pre-drilled hole that's already in the rail. Okay. Once we have the bottom attached, we'll attach the top. We do have two different sizes of L brackets for y'all to know. We got small L brackets and large L brackets. The difference is the leg that goes up against the material is higher. In this case, we're using small ones. All right. So we'll take the L bracket, lay it right into the snap channel on both sides, and we're going to center the rail up either on your column or your post. If it's a wide post or column, you want to use a level and level it up. It should be level no matter what you do, but sometimes the installation requires you to be center of your posts, so you just have to make it look uniform. If you set it level, sometimes it's off center of the posts, so you want to make it look presentable, and center of the posts and everything is the proper way to do it. So once we have that, we'll set our L brackets on there, and then we'll attach the L bracket to the column. The same thing, we're going to be using the frame screws in this installation. So we'll just okay, and we'll attach both sides. And once you have that, then you'll tack it from underneath using the 5/16 tack. Put it in the hole that's pre-drilled hole and tack it. Okay, make sure your L bracket sits down flush and flat, and it doesn't twist on you. Just make sure it stays square. That'll keep your rail nice and straight. If you're putting your L brackets in and you have a long tail, you know this area here is long like it is. Just be careful when you're putting your screws in that you're not putting them down on an angle, because it will bend that snap down, and then the top cap doesn't want to lock on right. Something to keep in mind. So try to put these in as straight as possible. And just be aware of what you're attaching to. If it's wood or whatever, you got to use a wood screw, frame screw, or aluminum or metal, you want to use a Tech. That's basically all that you have to worry about attaching to. And then you'll take your measurements in between and cut your top cap. Just keep in mind, you don't want your top cap so tight that it scars it when you're snapping it on. You know, this vinyl does scratch up real easy. A lot of times we're attaching to composite posts, so they do scar. So you want to get it tight, but not extremely tight. So you really want to measure it. Say like it's 32 inches, you want to cut it like 31 15/16, just a 1/16 of an inch, and give you a little bit of play. Always keep in mind fit of your top cap to your columns. Sometimes it's good to take a scrap piece and snap on and check the fit. Sometimes they tend to twist sitting out in the weather, or everybody's not perfect. They're not perfectly square, so you may have to make an adjustment to your cut on your top cap, a 1 or 2 degree or something, to get it to fit as best as possible. So keep an eye on that. So once you have your top cap cut, snap it on, and then we'll pop rivet on each end, inside and out. 1/8 inch up off the bottom edge, right here. Drill a hole straight through with an 1/8 inch drill bit and pop rivet it. That's the basic installation of the L to L into the post. Okay, that's part of the L to L, because we'll have a fold over on the top and an L bracket on the bottom. So you still have to set the rail at the proper height. Okay, put your L brackets in on the bottom, set the rail in, take it down, and then you'll use the fold over to attach the top instead of the L bracket. Because in this area right here, the L bracket would impede into the top cap area or the very top edge of the post, and it won't work. Okay, and then fit your top cap and pop rivet it. Okay, is there any questions about that installation? It's pretty cut and dry. I mean, it's simple. Just got to pay attention to 2 things. You got to pay attention to your thickness of your BC, so you get the right height for your L bracket, because you always want to maintain 2.5 inch toe kick, and make sure you set them level all the way around. If you have a long balconies that have multiple posts, 6 or 8 posts in a row, set your ends, snap a line, and transfer your lines on the sides of the post with a square. That'll keep all the rail level. The decks do tend to go up and down. You want the profile of the rail to be straight. And just make sure you touch up your techs and your screws when you're done. Of this stairway piece, okay, and it is attached to the surface. It's attached to the top surface, the step, and the bottom here is called the surface mount. All right, and what we got to do, the first thing we have to do is establish where this top post is going to land, okay, and it's going to land in line with our rail that we have going across the top level here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our post, this top post, right where it needs to be. Okay. The reason we do that is if you have this post set back too far or too far forward, it's going to change the measurement from the nose of the step to the BC. Okay. So you have to get this post set as close as possible to your actual mounting position. Okay. Back and forth, front to back. So we got this, we'll have this lined up. Take 2 people to hold this rail. He's going to hold the rail up to in a level position. Okay? Have the top post set exactly where you need it to be. Your helper, your assistant is going to hold the rail level. Away from that one. I'm sorry. And then you're going to take measurements. You're going to take measurements from the nose of the step up to the bottom of the BC, okay, the bottom course. And in 3 different areas. You're going to check the top, middle, and bottom. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the shortest measurement, okay? So here we have 11 5/8, okay, from the nose of the step up to the BC. And here we have 11 3/8. And on the very bottom, we have 10 1/4. Okay, it changes because of the angle. The steps change. So we want to take the 10 1/2 measurement, and that's what we want to cut off all the posts. If you cut too much off, it's going to push the rail down, and the bottom rail is going to land on the nose of the steps, and it's not going to sit flat on your mounting surface. You want to make sure you take your smallest measurement. So we had 11, and what was it? 11 3/8, 11, and 10 5/8 or 10 3/8. Okay. So now he's got to hold it up level, continually to hold it in that position.
Make sure it's good on top, Scott, if you're going to measure it again.
No, I'm not going to measure it again. I got to measure it to mark it. All right, it's right there.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so once you know what you have to cut, say we're going to cut off 10.5 inches. We're going to just put our tape straight down onto the surface that we're going to mount to and mark 10.5 on the post. Okay? We're going to put our tape right down on the surface right here and mark 10.5 on every single post, no matter if it's off the floor or not, because that's where you're going to go to. So we're marking 10.5 on all three. Okay? That's going to set our rail straight down. All right? So we'll take it off and we'll put it on a table saw or the saw benches and cut these with the skill saw. Once you got your rail set or cut, you want to take and you want to dry fit it. So we'll bring that rail back up here. And we've already tapped on the bases to each post, okay? And we're going to set it right in place. All right, we want to make sure that we have 42 inches from the nose of the step up to the top level, both top and bottom. Okay, and we're right at 42. So as long as we're level and we're at the proper height, we can go ahead and pre-drill our bases through the post and put our inserts in and mount our bases with the bolts. Don't cut the post with your insert in the post, okay? Because these inserts are made to a certain length, and they do have the base bolt hole drilled in them. So take these out, take your base off, cut your post, put the base on, dry fit it. Okay. Once you know it's right at the right height and it's level, then you can come down, take your bases off, slide your insert in and pre-drill it. Okay. Through the post, or you can leave the insert out and pre-drill it and then stick your insert in. Either way, doesn't matter. And then put the base on, run your bolt through.
Inserts have a hole in them?
Yeah, they all have the hole already pre-drilled in them for the base bolt. So the easiest thing would be to do is fit your rail, put the base on, check it, and then pre-drill your base without the insert in it. And then take the base off, throw the insert in it, and put the bolt in, tighten it up. Then we'll set it in place and bolt it down. In this case, we used lags to bolt it down. You just got to make sure when you bolt it down that you got your has sufficient material to bolt to. Whether you're using lags or bolts or stud anchors, every stairway is different. So you just want to make sure that your rail is set down level, both ways, level and plumb, and bolt it down and attach it. You want to keep this rail as close to the nose of the step as possible because of two reasons. You want to maintain your 42, and you want to make sure you keep that 6-inch fear rule in effect. So keeping that BC down to the step as low as possible is the thing to do. When you add that 1/2 inch base to the bottom of it, it brings it up, a 1/2 inch, and that's usually where we set the rails about a 1/2 inch above the nose of the step. The longer you run of your stairs, it's harder for us to get the angle exact. 1/10 of a degree affects the length of the rail, so if it has a 5 BC and you cut a 32.5 degree rail, it might fit perfectly up here at a 1/2 inch. By the time you get down 5 BCs, it's like an inch. So 1/10 of a degree affects the rail. So you want to make sure that you keep the rail down as tight as possible. So you're cutting it at your least measurement. Does that make any sense? So I don't deduct for the base. So I just measure from the nose of the step right to the BC and use my smallest measurement. And when I add that base to it, it raises it up and gives me that clearance that I need to make sure I maintain my 42. Okay, you always want to check that. You can be a little bit higher. If you have a closed stair, that 6-inch fear rule is not as important, but it is. But the main thing to worry about is making sure you have your height. You don't want to be below it. It can be 44 inches. Okay, but it can't be less than 42. That's the main thing. So once you have your rail cut, your base is on, drilled, and you fit it, set it in place. Here we're going to lag it down and on the steps and lag it down on the bottom. Level it to side, and then we'll attach this rail to it, because it would need to be attached to the top post of the stair rail with your attach that rail to it. There's two ways you could do it. You could take this measurement across here for your rail, knowing that it's 48 3/4 long, and set this stair rail to the inside of 48 3/4, bolt it down, and then mount that level rail. Or you can mount the level rail in there and slide the base, the post over to it, mark your L bracket, put it on, and then bolt it down. This rail is already cut and ready for install. But this rail, when it comes out of the shop, when you guys produce it, it's going to have the legs of the posts are going to be long, like that piece over there. Okay. The reason being is that we have to establish the correct height for our top post and our bottom post. So we have to cut them on site. Okay. And our center post is going to be side mounted. All right. So we're going to do the rail the exact same way. We're going to hold it in position. It's going to set right where we need it to be. Okay? I'm just going to sit here for a minute. And you're going to have your helper hold it, and it's going to be held level. Okay? You're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to take your measurements off the nose of the step to the BCs and mark it on your post so you know how to cut the height of your post, where you got to cut top and bottom. It's basically exactly the same thing as this rail. Bring it down right to there. Get that out of the way. Okay. So what we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to hold this rail up so it's level, and make sure you establish where this post is going to be. It's actually going to be back further where this one's going to be, because I'm using the rail that's up top. But you're going to measure the same thing. You're going to do the exact same thing. Measure from the nose of the step to the BC. Okay? 11 5/8. And you're going to check it down here on the bottom. Okay? He's got it held level right off the nose of the step. And it's 10 5/8. Okay? So we need to cut it at 10 5/8. So we'll just do the same thing. Put our tape down on the ground. Mark 10 5/8 here. The center post is going to be a side mount, so we're not marking that. And we'll measure up here and mark 10 5/8. Okay. Then we'll cut those off. Put our bases on it so it fits, and set it in place where it needs to be. And we'll check it. We'll check it for level, and we'll check our height. Okay? Once we know that's right, then we can go ahead and drill it and bolt our bases on and get ready to attach it. So we've got our post cut. Our bases are on the rail, top and bottom, and he's going to check it with our level and make sure it's level. Okay? And then we'll bolt it down. I've already got these bolted in here, but this concrete is going to be attached down here with your either wedge bolts or stud anchors on the bottom because of the concrete surface. And obviously the wood surface here is going to be attached with your 4.5 inch, half-inch lags. You want to make sure you maintain the side profile of your rail, keeping your rail straight in line with your stairs. You don't want it, too far in. You want to make sure your BC and your post are running right along the stairs. The stair string are nice and straight. Okay, and then we'll lag it down with 4.5 inch lags, and our bolts. We'll bolt it through the side. We want to be above the step, or we want to be below the step. So if we're above the step, we're hitting into a solid stringer, stair stringer, if they're closed. Okay, if they're not closed, like this stairway, we're going to be bolting underneath the treads. So you need to make sure you're bolting straight through the tread under the tread and not into the riser. Okay, so you have to see where your post is lining up, and it's lining up approximately right in this area over there, and we're going to drill straight into the stringer, being aware of what you're drilling into behind it. Okay, you want to make sure you're below this tread and not into the riser, so you're drilling straight through. So you'll mark your post accordingly and pre-drill it through with a 3/8 drill bit through your post, and then you'll get your rail in position, lag down and bolt it down here, and then you can drill through straight through your wood material on your stringer. Once you do that, then you got to use the proper length of bolt. That's determined by the thickness of your stringer. So we've drilled it through, set our bolts, put our lock nuts and washers on it, tighten it up and level it. You want to make sure it's level in two ways. You don't want this rail sagging down in the center, so you have to have your assistant look up the rail to make sure it's not got a dip in it, especially if the rail's a lot fairly long with 4 or 5 BCs. Put your bolts through. Try to put your bolts through so you don't see the nut and washers. Try to put them underneath the stairs so they're not visible. The only thing you want to see really on the outside of your posts is just the bolt head itself. And then you got to tighten it up and level it. Make sure it's level, the plumbing level. Just make sure it doesn't have a bow to it. If you have to, you got to shim the back side of the post, either top or the bottom. Make sure you put all your fasteners on, whether you're using lags, stud anchors for your tops and your bottoms of your posts. Okay. You need to make sure the bottoms of your posts are level, both in and out and back and forth. Once you establish that it's all level and straight, you can put your nut covers on. Finish out the rail, makes a nice finish. You want to put nut covers on the side, the smaller nut covers for your 3/8 bolts on the sides of your post. If you have a bolt coming through on this inside here, if it's a closed stringer and you have a bolt coming through, you don't want to put a nut and washer on this side of it. You're going to make sure you run your bolt through that way, so only the bolt head itself is on this side. Makes it a lot nicer look and finish. It's something that you just have to pay attention to as you're doing the job. Just make sure that you're plumbing level and square, and use the right fasteners for your side mounts. These stair stringers vary in thicknesses, so you have to pay attention to the thickness. You know, sometimes they're double, sometimes they're single. So you have to take 2 inches for your post thickness. And say if it was 3 inches, you have to add 3 inches for that, so that's 5 inches. So you're going to need like a 5.5 or a 6-inch bolt to go through. So you want to make sure you have the right length of bolt. The reason why I set this post back so far is because when we're doing stairs and the transition area, we need to try to keep these two posts in line as best we can. What that does, it makes it a better look for the rail, and it also helps the handrail when we do the handrail. Okay, so when we're attaching these rails, we want to try to keep these posts in line as best that we can. Now, if we're doing what they call side mounts, okay, you're going to be into the crotch area. The top stair may come down and be a surface mount, but when you go down the stair, the top of this stair post will be in the crotch, and the bottom will end up being a surface mount. So that's where the two posts will not align. They'll be offset. And the other thing we have to be aware of is the distance between the two rails in the crotch area. It does have to be less than 4 inches. So if it's over 4 inches in this area, we have to have a piece of rail made to fit, or add a piece of material to the side of one post or another, because we do have to maintain less than 4 inches all the way around the rail, no matter where we're at. So this area right here is over 4 inches. It's actually 7 inches. So we would have to add a piece of rail in here to close that off. But when you're doing your stairs, you want to try to make sure that you keep your posts as lined as best that you can. So that'll give you, when this rail comes down and it terminates right here, you know this is where that post is going to be. So when you go to measure and cut this rail, if it's a surface mount, you're going to align this stair post with this one and set it level to make your marks to cut the length of your posts. Okay? If it was a crotch mount, the rail would set back in this area right here on the face of the header and the crotch, they call it. And that's when the post will be offset. That's the only time. We're doing side mount rails and you came from the bottom up and this rail being in the way, how, you know, you would have to side mount through this rail. So you want to work your way down. That way there, the bottom, the lower rail isn't in your way to do your installation. Okay, and it's only like 9 foot and it's got the top cap on it already. If we have multiple sections of rail that we have to snap together, you're going to have to key the top of this rail. Okay, say if we had a 20-foot stairway, we can't, you know, transport 20-foot sections of rail. So we'll put 2 sections of rail together, snap it together, and key it together with your 2 straight keys, and then establish your heights, making sure your rail stays level, and cut, you know, mark and cut all your posts.
Why do you use a key?
Key, it locks the 2 rails together so they don't come apart. It's the same way where you lock the corners together. That's a weak point of the rail where the two tops of the rail come together and they need to be fastened and tied together. So that locks it together so it strengthens the rail. And then you'll have to cut the top cap to fit when you're all finished. And you'll just cut it, you know, 1/8 inch longer than your length of your rail. All right, the next demonstration I got to go over with you with the 100 series installation is how to do a siding mount and how to actually put the corners together. It's pretty basic, but I got to go over that. And then we'll do the top cap after that. Okay, the first thing we need to do is determine where we need to drill our holes, okay? Now, like I was saying before, we need to be 3 inches down from the top, 3 inches up from the bottom, and then we're going to hit center of the siding mount post, okay? We'll drill to attach the rail without binding on the or rubbing on the picket. Okay, that's the whole key, is to drill straight in, put a little bit of an angle on it, and come inside so your screw and your drill will miss your picket so you don't scar it up when you're attaching it. And we want to take and use our 2.5 inch toe kick and set the bottom, so keep it in line and set the bottom, and then you'll level the top over. Okay. I'm going to set it under my rail to keep my toe kick right. Okay. Keeps the rail nice and straight and level. You got it 2.5 inch. You know, maintain your reveal on the sides, keeping your rail straight in line, and then just screw it straight in. Okay. Try not to screw it so tight that you crush your BC, but make sure that you're on that angle so you're not rubbing on the picket. If you do slightly rub on it, just touch it up. Then you're going to do the top screw. And you just got to set the rail, hold it level, mark it so you know where it's at and level, then do the top screw. 3 inch stainless steel screw. Okay, and then you can do your center. Just be aware when you're attaching the flat surface, you know, not to crush the BC, because that's a solid surface back there. When you're attaching it to siding, you want to make sure that your screw penetrates the siding and it doesn't suck it in and leave a void. So sometimes you have to put it in, back it out, and then run it in again so it sits flush. Pretty much all there is to a siding mount. Just make sure you don't scar up your picket, and if you do, slightly hit it with your driver or something, touch it up, touch your screws up and everything. Do it right there as you go. You don't have to worry about it. If you got multiple areas where you're doing your side mount, then you can do it all at one time. Now I'm going to go over how to put these corners together. This is a typical 90-degree corner. Put the corners together. The first thing we need to do is to put our frame screw in. And we have a hole here pre-drilled into the snap plate, and put the frame screw in. Okay, we're going to use an 1.5 inch frame screw. All right. Once you have the frame screw in, you can put your corner key in. Actually, this corner key got cut off from the pre-drill for the pop rivet. So we'll lay our corner key in. Just make sure these techs can't go wrong. Techs will go inside the post just because of the way the holes are drilled into the key. Okay, that's how it goes. And you'll line your BC up using a 3-inch stainless steel screw and attach it. Okay, you want to put it together. Okay, put your corner together before you mount it down, because that's going to help you align your rail. Okay, so you're going to align your rail on your marks that you have established, to your 8-inch mark or what have you, to keep it all straight. And you'll do your outside attachment on your corner, inside attachments on your other posts. And once you have it attached to the deck, then you can reverse the process to do this inside lag. Okay, so to do that inside lag, all you got to do is just take that screw out and push that BC to the side, and either drill it with the hammer drill or pre-drill it with your drill and lag it down. Tighten it up, cut it off, cap it, what have you, and then pull it back. So we got it pre-drilled, and we'll just run that lag in there just like so, keeping that BC off to the side. You can push it out either way. If you're on a deck, you can push it out, push it in. Just make sure you don't rub your drill or your impact on the rail. Okay, it's simple to do the corners. You just got to pay attention to what you're doing. Do your top, do this 3-inch screw. Make sure you use the proper lag or whatever. Kick that VC to the side. Finish it off, tighten it up, cut it off. Make sure your post is level and square if you got to shim it or whatever, and then cap it. Put it all back together. It's a little bit more to it if you got to use the stud anchor. You know, you got to drill it, cut it, blow it out, drive it in, all that stuff. So you have to be careful not to damage the BC. Okay, once you have that all together, that's the complete corner. It's not much to it. Okay, the only other thing we have to go over is top capping. And what I've been trying to teach my guys that I've been doing is getting you a couple patterns cut. Okay, for a 45, mainly, you know, you got your 45 corners is the main thing you're going to worry about. So make sure you cut 2 true 45s, and you can snap them on and fit it. Okay, cap accordingly, but that'll help you get your lengths. So if you have these pre-cut, and then you can just measure from the wall to the outside edge and get your measurements. Okay, and then adjust your angle accordingly. If the outside of your top caps are open, you want to add to the degree. Okay, so if it's 45 and you got a gap out here, you might want to make them 45.5 or 46. And if it's inside, you want to reduce the angle. Okay, about an 1/8 inch gap is like 1 degree, just to keep that in mind. So if you got an 1/8 inch gap, you know, you have to split that degree in half, so you can add a half degree to each side, depending on, you know, the fit of the top cap. First thing I try to do, or that I do, is cut me a piece of snap. Okay, this snap is going to set this top cap exactly the way it's going to fit on your rail. Okay, so if you take this snap and you snap it in your rail, okay, it's going to set that profile exactly the way it's going to fit, no matter if it's A2, A1, or what have you, because there's 4 different types of cap. You got A1, A2, A3. The A4 slides over top. It's not critical that you use the snap, but all of the others, I recommend putting a piece of snap in there before you cut any of your angles, okay? So what we'll do, just cut it, 6 or 8 inch piece, snap it in your rail, okay? And what that does, that sets these edges to that perfect profile to snap on that rail. Because a lot of times when we get this cap, it's crunched in. And if you don't set that profile right and you go to cut a 45 and then you snap it on that rail, these legs flare out and you got a big gap across your top cap. So it doesn't fit. So then you got to trim it again and you think it's out of level or your saw is out of square or something, and it's frustrating. So if you use a piece of snap to set that exactly the way it's going to fit on that rail, you'll be fine. Okay, so we'll snap that in there, and then we'll cut. We got to cut 45s, so we need to cut a left and a right. Okay. So when we cut that, it held the top cap exactly where it's going to be, and we cut it at 45. Now it has that little tab right there on the inside of the top cap edge that the snap hooks to. We need to trim that off, and we just need to trim it off on this flat edge. We don't need to go all the way up into the top edge of the top cap. We just need to cut that little snap edge off.
You keep moving.
I know. Here. Okay, so you see what I'm talking about right there? That little snap edge we're going to cut off. So we'll hold it on a slight angle. And just cut it off. Okay? And once we cut it off,
You're good.
it looks like we cut it off. It looks like that. It's nice and square. And what that does, that allows the 2 pieces of top cap to fit together perfectly without binding on that snap edge. Okay. So then we'll cut both pieces. We'll cut our left and our right, and we'll fit them. The thing we need to be aware of is if we have an outside gap, we want to add to the degree. If it's a 45 degree or 90 degree corner and you cut 2 45s, it's got a gap on the outside. You need to make one like a 45 and a half, or you just have to adjust your cut. Okay. Sometimes they're not 45. Sometimes they'll be 22 and a half degree angles. So you have to evaluate your cut, whether you have to add or subtract on your degree of your angle. We need to make sure that these fit as tight as possible. Okay. Dry fit them. Make sure they're right before you do any attachment. Okay. Once you know they're right, the angles fit good and everything, we want to file and paint them. Always file all the edges to take off the rough edges. File the corners and the tips. Take off those rough spots. Okay? And then we'll hold it upside down. Once you have it filed, hold it upside down and paint it from this side. Don't paint it from the top and get overspray on the top of the cap. Okay? We don't want overspray on the top. So flip it over and paint it from underneath. We need to paint that mill finish, the plain, non-painted surface, so it doesn't show up. It really stands out on black and bronze, so it's real critical that you paint those ends. No matter if it's the end of the rail or it's 45 cuts or what have you. Any plain cut surface needs to be painted, filed and painted. Okay? Any questions on how to cut out of the outside corners, 45s, and using the snaps? Pretty basic, simple, okay? Now the one thing I do want to talk about is this transition on the stairs. It's real simple to cut these things, okay? Two things I like to explain to my helpers and my assistants is when you have the top angle, okay? Your top angles. If this is a 30 degree angle, you're going to cut 2 15 degree angles, okay? 15 and 15 makes 30, all right? If it's a top, the top edge of your top cap is going to be the long point. If it's the bottom, if this transitions down and levels out, this is the bottom angle. The bottom of your top cap is going to be your long point. So the top is the top of the top cap is going to be your long point, and the bottom transition will be the bottom edge of your top cap will be your long points. So that's a good rule of thumb to pay attention to know how to cut your top cap. You know, it gets confusing sometimes, and it takes some guys 2 or 3 times to get the right angle, the right cut. So, but that's the easiest way to remember it. The top level top angle is the long points on the top of your top cap. The bottom is at the bottom edge of your top cap. Okay. Same thing. We're going to use the patterns. Cut 2 patterns to fit the rail, so you can get the proper lengths. You want to make sure that these fit nice and flush. Okay. You don't want no edges. The elderly, women, and children all have really soft hands. Any little sharp edge will cut them, and it cuts real nice and easy. So we want to make sure we have no sharp edges. Okay, even us rubbing our hands on them, you can tell. So if you go, once you got your corners put together and everything, just check it and make sure it's nice, and file it off and make sure there's no sharp edges, and then use a little bit of touch up. The same thing we're going to do is we're going to pop rivet it on both sides. The posts, top angles, okay, where have you, on your corners. You're gonna stay back in between your first picket. You don't want to put it out here on this corner, just because of the fact that you got frame screws, keys, and all that in here. And if you pre-drill it in that corner, it tends to break the bit off inside, and that causes a whole other problem. So you just step back to the center of the first picket in the post and pop rivet there. It'll be fine. Just try to keep everything uniform when you're pop riveting. Okay. To cut these 2 top angles, I know I'm kind of backtracking here a second, but we want to do the same thing. I always want to make sure that we use a piece of snap inside of this top cap. Okay. It sets that top cap perfect. And what we'll do is we'll lay our top cap up flat against the saw. Okay, the bottom edge flat against the saw. So all we have to do is rotate the saw side to side to the correct angle. If we lay it down flat like we were going to do a 45, we would have to lean the saw over, and that creates more of a problem to try to get the exact angle. So if you take your top cap and you put it up on its head to cut those stair angles, the step angles, it works out a lot better. Okay, it's the easiest way to do it. So you don't want to have to roll your saw over if you don't have to. Does everybody understand that? Pretty cut and dry. Always make sure you file and paint all your edges. Put your end caps in. Or when you go to do your end caps, caulk inside and put caulk or your glue on the snap and on the inside of your top cap, and then snap your end caps in. Situation up there at the top where the top snap butts into the post, and you have a fold over at the bottom. You go to fit your top cap in here, and the top cap is actually wider than your post. So if you just put that on there, you're going to have an opening on each side of the post where you're going to see a gap. Okay, so we actually need to put a end cap in it. So what you have to do is you have to notch this end cap to fit over top of that snap. Okay, because if you just try to put a regular top cap in there, it's going to hit that snap, and it's not going to snap in there right because it's up against that post. It's not free to just snap straight in. It's actually sitting down on the snap. So you have to take and notch the bottom of your cap out. 300 series rail.
Right.
Okay. As always, step 1, read and understand the work order before leaving AAP. Review the layout, location, and special notes. You are responsible to make sure that all items that are needed are loaded on your truck. Prepare the installation site. Okay. We get to these basement walls and things like that. There's a lot of dirt, concrete, slag, wood, nails, everything still on top of them or needs to be cleaned off. So you need to make sure the surface is prepared to install the rail, okay? Make contact with the job superintendent to confirm as to where you will be starting. Upon arrival, confirm that the job site is properly prepared for the installation. Stage each individual rail in the correct location based on the work order. Find the power source or use the generator. Take all the tools needed and fastener tray to the installation area. Okay, the rail installation. Place the correct rail in its proper location based on the work order layout. Pre-drill through the pilot holes in the base with a 3/8 drill bits. For the wood, make sure you drill directly into the center of the floor joist or your nailers. Using a 3/8 by 4-inch galvanized lags for wood. Should be stainless unless otherwise noted. Okay, not galvanized. For concrete, use the 3/8 by 4-inch wedge bolts to fasten down the rail. Or when you're doing concrete, we're going to use 3/8 by 3 3/4 stud anchors. That's the SOP right there. The main thing we attach to is concrete, and it's going to be the 3/8 by 3 3/4 stud anchors. Okay, then you'll level the rails needed by tightening either leg or bolt on each side and shimming it. When connecting the rails together, use 2 3-inch stainless steel screws with the corresponding color. You're going to attach at the bottom and the top of the corner with 2 screws. Okay. Step 5 is the handrail. The handrail is always installed on the door handle side of the stairs. Okay, sometimes we have stair rail on both sides. Sometimes we just have it on one side. It depends on the shape and the layout of the stairway, the basement stairway. So the rule of thumb is that the handrail is always mounted on the basement door handle side of the wall or the rail. Okay. Drill a 3/8 hole through the post, 35.5 inches up off the floor, and you'll use a 3/8 by 4.5 inch bolt with a handrail splice, washer and lock nut, and then you'll install the wall mounting brackets on the wall. Install the handrail when you're finished. You want to level the section of the rail. It's 36 inches from the walking surface. For more information on the handrail installation, see the SOP number 2 for handrail installation. So I'm going to go ahead and visually demonstrate how you should install this stuff. Okay, the first thing you need to do when you get to the wall is check the mounting surface, make sure it's clean and properly prepared. Okay, put your rail together. We got 2 screws on the bottom and the top to put these 300 series rails together. 3-inch black screws. On this case, it's black rail. Okay, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top. Put it together. Set it on your wall. Okay, line this corner up. Okay, so it's center of the wall both ways. Okay, and then that'll give you the proper reveal at the ends, as long as the rail is measured correctly, which it should be. But line your corner up, center of the wall both ways, and that'll establish your ends. Okay. You can then bolt with a 3/8, 3 3/4 stud anchor if it's concrete. Okay, just imagine that this wall is concrete, because 90% of the time it's concrete. Actually, probably 98% of the time. And we'll bolt it down with 3/8 stud anchors. Keeping this square and straight, you bolt it down everywhere with your 3/8 stud anchors. Drive them in. And then you're going to tighten them up and level it, straighten it, make sure it's all straight, cut them off and cap them with your small nut covers. Okay? It's pretty basic. That's all there is to it. Nothing too strenuous, serious, or anything. Just keep it straight and square, level it, and you're fine. Cut your bolts off and cap them. Touch it up, your screws in these corners if you need to. Wipe it down. You know, residential, we do a lot of these on residential, so you do need to wipe them down, keep them clean. That's one of the biggest things they have complaints about, is being, we left it dirty. Okay. To install the handrail, we want to make sure when we measure for this handrail insert, this belt bolt to the post, okay, we're measuring 35.5 inches up from your the walking surface, the top landing, okay, not the steps down here, okay. This is going to be our top landing, like where I'm
It
standing.
says 35 1/4.
It's 35.25.
That's what it says.
35 and a half.
It should be 35.5. Okay.
Half of your handrail's an inch, right?
There was a correction made. That paper might not have got changed out. Okay. If it's a quarter, 35 1/4, that's not that big of a deal. But, a quarter inch is not going to make that drastic of a change. But it should be 35.5 inches from this surface, okay, to the center of this handrail insert, okay? So you'll put a mark up there. You want to drill a 3/8 hole dead center through the post. And then you're going to use a 4.5 inch bolt with a 2-inch insert and a lock nut, okay? Tighten it up, make sure it's nice and straight, and tighten it up. You do want to keep in mind that you want to keep that insert, that backer, keep that slot up and down. You see what I'm talking about? Keep that so it's sitting straight up and down. So that screw, when you go to screw that handrail to this pipe, it's going to go in that slot. Okay, you don't want it turned sideways because you'll be screwing right into that backer and it'll break the screw off. Okay, once you have that established, 35.5 up to the center of this, then you can line your handrail up. Same thing, you'll set it on the steps, okay? Hold that right there for me for a minute, okay? Same thing, you'll have it lined up, and then you measure up. Center of this level spot, 30 3/4 to the bottom edge of your bracket, and bolt it. You're going to use large hole handrail brackets, all level. This one's got an angle one on because it's wood. And put that in, okay? Then you can set your handrail right on top of it.
Really?
Works every time, baby. Okay? I'm just spray handy, man. But once you set it on there, just double check your handrail to make sure it's sitting where you need it to be. 30 3/4 sets that perfectly at 36, okay? And this should be 36. You did everything right. It'll be 36 from your level walking surface, okay? From here to the top of the pipe, okay? Then all you're going to do is you're going to attach it here with Tex, and then you're going to go from this area to the top of your wall, okay? No matter how far it comes up this handrail, you're going to put a handrail bracket a couple inches down from this top, as far up as you can. And then you want to try to, keep an idea on your space. You might have to add another handrail bracket, or two, depending on the length of your handrail. We don't want to have no more than 4 feet span between these handrail brackets. That's 54 inches is maximum. I would try to keep it around 4 foot. But if this is, say it's way up here, and you got a handrail bracket mounted to the wall, you want to put one in the center of that, just to keep it uniform. And then attach it with Tex. Wipe it down and touch it up. That's as simple as it gets. Is there any questions on that? It's just when you go to measure for this, setting this splice and bolt on your end post, no matter where this surface is, if this is the final walking surface at the top landing where this post is, that's where you want to measure from. Sometimes this rail, this surface here is down lower, so you want to make sure that you're measuring from the correct area. So I might put that right here, so you just have to be aware of where that top landing is.
It usually sits
That's
up on
where
a.
you're going to mount or measure through your 35.5 to mount that bracket.
That's where like when we make 300 series, 24 inches, there's a wall.
There's a ledge.
Yeah.
Already.
Oh, wait. And you might only come up so high, and that wall will be sticking up so high. So you're going to have to measure from the floor up, and your bolt would be right right in here at 36. I just have this sitting here because, the wall's not big enough. And that would be our top landing of our stairs, and that's why we measured from here up 35 and a half.
SOP for the bottom room installation. Step 1, read your work order. When you get your work order, there should be a copy of an example work order on there. You'll see how many 1x2s you have, 2x2s, just all material lists. It's always important just to double check and make sure what you got in your truck is the same as what you have on your work order. So just double check that and make sure you have everything, door, everything. Step 2, load the material. Double check all material and hardware with the work order and inventory. That's what I just said. Step 3, inspect job site. Confirm that the site has been properly prepared for installation. The deck must be clean and dry to continue installation. When you go, lots of times when you go to a residential job, there's always stuff on the deck. Don't just grab stuff and just, toss it outside or whatever. Talk to the homeowner and ask them if it's okay to remove them out of the deck. If you can work, if you take the furniture and just kind of shove it all to one side and you can work around there, that's probably more preferable. But just communicate with the homeowner on if there's anything on the porch. Lay out your tools and fasteners needed for installation. Stage materials using work order. Locate the correct location. Once you get to the job site, figure out where you're gonna put your sawhorses, where you're gonna put your saw set up, and find extension cords and run your cords and just get completely set up. Step 6, setting the post. On here it says install top casting first using the layout on the work order. Find the correct distance from the house to the casting. Lots of times you cannot install the casting because you got temporary props right in the way where your castings are at. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna get your jack, you're gonna jack it up and check for levelness. So you gotta set your ladder, take your level, set it up on there, and check to see if one side's gotta go up. Just before you jack anything up, check all 3 sides and just double check to see if they have to go up, down, or whatever, and then jack up accordingly. Once you get it there, you're gonna install your corner casters. But before you do that, there's another paper on there of your vinyl room layout. That's gonna tell you where your structural posts are gonna be located at. So right here on this one, we got 4 structural posts, but the 2 ones you're gonna set are gonna be your 2 corners. So the first thing you gotta do is you gotta measure your 2 windows, which is 47 and 15/16. You're gonna add your 36-inch door opening, and then you're gonna add your 4 posts. So 4 times 3, that's 12 inches. So you're gonna take 47 and 15/16 times 2. You're gonna add the 36 inches, then you're gonna add 12 inches for your post. Once you get that total measurement, what I'll do is you get your helper to hold your tape on one end and get your overall measurement. If you have, after you put your mark, if you have a 1-inch overhang, like bigger, split the difference. So your casting is going to be 1/2 inch from each side because you want to go right in the middle. So once you determine that, you go ahead and set your first casting, put it right there where it goes. Once you set your casting, you're going to take your bottom corner post, your bottom casting, set it down on the bottom, take your tape, put it on top of there, and measure up. Once you have it leveled, jacked up to where you need it to be at. Once you get your measurement, you cut your post, you bring it over, you're going to put your top one on first, slide your bottom corner casting on, slide it in place, and you're going to level it. Once you level it, don't fasten it down yet. Go to your next one and do the same thing. So set your corner post. Once you got both of them set, then you can go ahead and fasten the bottom casting, because if you fasten one and you gotta go to the other one and jack it up to get it level, what's gonna happen is that roof is gonna rack. And then this one's gonna be out of level, then you gotta back up the screws and move it again. So once you got both of them set and leveled, you're gonna go ahead and fasten the bottoms. Once you got the 2 corner posts set, now you gotta measure over. Your first window's gonna be 47 and 15/16. So you're gonna measure, you can always allow a 16th bigger, so like 48 inches. Allow 48 inches, put a mark, and that's where your next post and your next casting is going to be at for your door opening. So once you measure that, you go ahead and set your casting, do the same thing, put your bottom casting on. Your bottom casting for the door, you're going to use a straight casting which has 2 ears. But because of the door location, you got to cut one of those ears off. So once you cut one of those ears off, there's a picture somewhere on here, or behind the back of the page, you can see a casting with the ears cut off. And that allows the door to slide in. So once you got your first post set and you got it leveled, you're gonna go ahead and measure 36 inches over, because you want exactly 36 inches opening for your door. So you're gonna measure 36 inches, you're gonna go ahead and put a mark and set your next casting on there. And then repeat the same step. Put your bottom casting on after you cut the ear off, measure it, cut it, and install it, and then level it in and out. Once you set this first post for your door, just measure 36 over from the top and 36 over from the bottom, because you got to have exactly 36 inches for your door opening. Once you get that done, then you have all your 4 structural posts installed. Your next step is going to be your bottom receiver. So once you got your post set, you're going to measure. Well, before that, you don't want to forget about your screws for your wind lift. It's the same as the screen porch. There's 2 holes on there on which one to put on and which one to use and which one not to use, because you got to make sure you're clear for your receiver. On step 7, you can see the picture on there of the receiver, how they notched it around the base. You have to do that in order to allow that receiver to set flush on that floor. So what you're going to do is you're going to measure in between each opening, cut your receiver. You got to cut a notch. Here's one. I don't know if we'll pass this around.
Show it to this first.
All right.
I'm not gonna move it, just.
But this has, I don't know if you can see it.
Flip it to it.
It's got notches on the inside where you got to allow for your casting. And then there's a notch on the inside around here that you have to cut to clear for your casting.
The weep hole.
Yeah, we'll talk about weep holes. All right, so once you measure your bottom receiver, you're going to dry fit it, you're going to cut it, set it in place. Now you're going to mark. If you got concrete, you got to drill 1/4-inch holes because you're going to use drive pins. So you want to put drive pins about every 16 to 20 inches. You don't have to actually measure it, but just kind of, put on there. You want to do every 16 to 20 inches. So once you got a measure, you're going to go ahead and pre-drill your holes with a 1/4-inch drill bit for your drive pins. Drill it. Once you got them all drilled and hammer drilled, you want to remove the receiver, get a brush, and you want to brush all the dust out. You want to make sure that that area where that receiver is going to go at is completely clean. It can't be wet, no dust, no anything. So you're going to go ahead and brush it all out and clean it all out. Once you got it cleaned out, you're going to take silicone and put a good sized bead of silicone down the middle of the bottom of the receiver. Once you do that, you set it back in place, take the drive pins, put them in there, and just tap them with the hammer. Very carefully, because when you're beating them with the hammer, I've seen it done, you don't want to hit the side of this receiver. because then you'll damage it and you gotta take it out and you gotta cut another one. So once you got them all tapped in place, if it's wood, then all you gotta do is pre-drill with a 1364s and just use 2-inch screws to go down. But with concrete, you gotta use drive pins. So you're gonna do that all the way around, in between the posts, back to the wall and everything. Once you have your bottom receiver, your next step is gonna be your receiver up against the house wall. Once you do that, you're using the same receiver as the bottom. So you're gonna have to make 2 notches to make a relief cut. And the purpose of that is so that it allows you to go inside the bottom receiver. Pretty much like that. What you want to do is you want to take your tape measure inside the receiver, measure up to the header, and make it a 1/2 inch short. It does not have to be tight because it's going to be inside the bottom receiver. So if your measurement is 101.5, then you can cut it 101. Do that to both sides. We got 2 examples here of mounting surfaces. One is just a coma board, which all you gotta do is just drill 5 holes, use 2 inches or 3 inches, as long as you have a 1-inch embedment into the wood. On the other side, if you do siding, if you have siding, you gotta cut an opening, use J-channel, and then put the receiver inside that opening. And you also want to put silicone on that one side too. So put silicone behind it, put it up against the wall, and then go ahead and fasten it. Once you get that done, you're ready to start framing for your windows. You're going to start with your top 1x2. You're going to take your 1x2, there's three different types of installation for vinyl windows. You have a bottom kick panel on this one, which is a 12-inch knee wall here with a top transom. And then on this side, I don't know if you want to bring it over here, you got a full height window. So there's three different applications. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the ones with the full height window. You're going to take your tape measure, you're going to stick it inside the receiver and measure to the post. Once again, you want to make that top 1x2 a 1/2 inch shorter than what measurement you get. Once you put your tape inside the receiver up to the post, you want to make it a 1/2 inch short. So once you cut that, you want to take your tape, hold it on one end, and you got to look at your layout, which in this case, that window right there is 31 7/16. So you want to take your tape measure, hold it on one end, and put a mark at 31 7/16. You're going to take your punch box, and you're going to punch it, and that's going to be your opening right there. So once you do that, you do the same thing with the top. On the bottom, the same thing. You take your tape, hold it to the one end, the other one, make it a 1/2 inch shorter, and that's going to be your 3x2. Once again, you're going to come from one side, measure over 31 7/16, get your punch box, punch it, and you're going to frame through that wall together. When you put it in, you need to start with your bottom. You need to take your bottom 3x2, stick it inside the receiver, and then over, and then slide it in. Then the same thing with the top. That's why when you cut it and you make it 1/2 inch short, that's to allow you to slide it in, bring it up to the post, and then flush to the post. Once you do that, make sure it's tight to the post. Take your screws and fasten the top, and leave the bottom alone. Your next step is, if your windows are all normally the same size, which in this case is 97 inches. So you want to take a 2x2 and cut it 97 inches, and you're going to use that as a jig all around the windows. So once you cut your 2x2 97 inches, you're gonna set it up in here, all the way up against the 1x2. Take the 3x2 in the bottom, lift it up tight, and put a tack on the receiver to the 3x2 so it'll stay in place. You're gonna take that one out, slide it in place right here, hold it up, and put a tack on the bottom, that's going to give you your height, and you already have your width. When you get to this side, you got to take your 2x2, which is already pre-cut 97 inches, set it in here, and then get your 31 and 7/16. Once you get that done, you're going to take your windows, pop them in, make sure caulk them around, pop the windows in, and go ahead and fasten them. And we'll talk about which screw locations on the windows. So what you want to do is you want to take your top transom, you want to put it in place, and you want to fasten it. Then you're going to take a 2x2, you're going to cut it to the opening, you're going to put a caulk silicone on the bottom and put your 2x2 on there. That's going to be your header. Your next step is going to be take your bottom 3x2 and set it in place, but just leave it all the way down. Once you have it down, you're going to take your window, put it in place, have your assistant hold it all the way up tight, and then put 2 screws up there, fasten the window, and then you take your bottom 3x2 and bring it up to the window so you have a tight fit all the way around. So that's that application right there. On this one right here, after I get done explaining, this is a lot to take in right now with the 3 different type of windows, but it's not really hard. On this one right here, you're gonna start with the bottom. You're already gonna have your bottom receiver on. You need to determine what size knee wall is. So you look at your work order where your layout is, and you can see right there on the bottom right-hand side it says 12-inch knee wall. So you know it's a 12-inch knee wall. So what you want to do is you want to come to the front of the porch, measure up 11 3/4. You don't want to make it the whole 12 because by the time you put your top piece on there, it's going to be higher. So make it 11 3/4. 2 receivers on the sides. You're going to do your relief cuts. You're going to put it in place. You're going to fasten it to the post, and then you're going to take your 2-inch panel. You're going to cut it to fit in there, slide it in place. Take the other piece of receiver, put it on top, and that's your bottom. Once you do that, you're going to take your window, you're going to set it in place, hold it up tight, fasten it, and then bring that receiver up to the window. That's going to give you a tight fit all the way around. So that's pretty much the windows right there. Once you have your openings and you have the windows installed, your next going to be your door. When you set your door, like I said, you already have your 36-inch opening, so that's what you want, no bigger, no smaller. You're going to take your door, you're going to take it out of the package, you're going to bring it in here, you're going to set it in place, so you're going to push it all the way in, all the way down. You want to do a couple things first. Take a pencil, you want to put a mark on his outside edge, just a little pencil mark right around here where the 2 holes are at for your doorknob and deadbolt. Put a pencil mark there, and then come on the inside. Once you got it in on the inside, put a mark on your inside jamb. And I'll explain what is that for. So you're going to have a mark here and a mark on the inside. Once you do that, if you're on concrete, you want to get your hammer drill, and your bottom threshold has got 3 holes. You want to pre-drill, you want to take your hammer drill and just mark it. So just make a mark on all 3 holes. Once you have a mark, you want to take the door, take it out, set it to the side. You want to go ahead and hammer drill your 3 holes for the threshold. Once you do that, we got some blue plugs. You take those blue plugs and you put it in there, and then once you set the door, when it's all done, you're going to go ahead and get your flat screws, which are in the door, and go ahead and fasten that threshold down. But before you do that, your marks right here, you got to do you got to cut 2 notches here. Your bottom one is to allow your plate to come in here, and your top hole is going to be for the deadbolt to allow it to lock, close all the way. So that's 2 notches. So the 2 marks that you did when the door was in place is so when you cut, you know not to go past that mark because it'll be seen. So that's just a guideline. So you have a mark here, and you got a mark on the inside. So once you go ahead and determine where these holes are going to be cut, you go ahead and cut your 2 holes, clean it up, make sure everything's right. And once you get that done, then you want to get your silicone and put a fat bead of caulk from one post to the other one. And what you're doing is you're building like a water dam. So once you set your door on there, you're sealing it so no water will go through there. You see that picture right there of the silicone going from one post to the other. So once you got that silicone from one side to the other, you want to take your door, don't drag it on the bottom, pick it up a couple inches, slide it in, and then set it down on the silicone, and then go ahead and close the door. And then go ahead and, once the door's in place, the important thing is you want to check this reveal. So you need to find out if you need to pick one side up or the other to get your reveal straight. Once you set it in there, you get your reveal straight, the first screw you want to put is this one up here in the corner where the hinge is at. So you want to put that one, and then you want to put the bottom one. Once you got that done, you want to come over here and set this top one, and set the bottom one, and then you're going to take your center and get the reveal you need. Once you get it to where it's straight, then you go ahead and put the rest of the screws on there to fasten all the rest of the screws all the way around. Once you get the outside screws in, you open the door, and you got where the hinges are at. There's two screws on each hinge that you have to pre-drill with a 5/32 if you're going into aluminum. Once you pre-drill with a 5/32, you go ahead and take these screws and fasten them in, and then you got ones on this side. Another thing I didn't mention is before you put the door in and you silicone the bottom, make sure you silicone the sides. Not the top, just the sides for now. So you put the door in, you check the reveal, you got all the screws in there, all the fasteners. Your next step is going to be to measure for a 2x2. So you measure to see how wide a 2x2, which should be 36 inches. You cut it 36, you go ahead and silicone the top of the door. Take that 2x2 with the spline grooves facing up. You don't want to have them facing the room, down, or towards the door, because then when you put your screws on there, your screws will want to kick from going inside the spline groove. So make sure it's facing up. So you silicone it, take your 2x2, set it in place, and you go ahead and put your 2 or 3 screws up here. When you use that, I didn't mention it, you want to use the small PGT screws. Because if you use your Tex, the head on the Tex is too big, and when you put your snap plate on there to cover the screws, you're going to see dimples where all the screws are at. So make sure you use the small PGT screws when you're installing the door. Alright, so you got your 2x2 cut, you siliconed it, you put it in place. Once you put your 3 screws on there, you got a couple more in the bottom. So you want to go ahead and pre-drill and put those screws in there. Once you got that, you want to take your top transom on top of the door. When they come from PGT, they got a 2-sided tape all the way around, which doesn't seal very well. So just go ahead and pull that double tape out and just put a small bead of silicone all the way around. Set it in place. Once you set it in place, your screw locations, you're going to have your door in place. You just want to take your spline groove and just go straight up. So you want to put one there, and you want to put one here, and then just take your tape measure, measure over, and do the same thing on the top. So you're going to have 4 screws. So now you have your windows in, your doors, your top transom. Your next step is going to be to install your hardware, which is your doorknob and your deadbolt. So you open up the package, you go ahead and install. I always start with my with the doorknob, set it in place, put it on here first, where once it latches, the door still has play. You want to slide it back inside the room. So adjust it accordingly until it closes and there's no play, and you got a good seal. Once you get that done, then you want to install the deadbolt. Same thing with the deadbolt. Once you install it, you want to make sure it closes without dragging. So the plate for the deadbolt is the same thing. There's two screws. You want to just turn them a little bit, adjust them to where you need them, tighten them up, and then you're done. Once that'll complete the door 100%. Once you get done with the door, your next step is going to be to seal the room. You want to use white Solar Seal, and it's very important that you use this and nothing else, because this won't turn color when it ages or if it's outside for exterior use. So you want to use that on the inside of the receiver, inside the room. You want to use that on wherever there's a corner post. You want to go ahead and put a bead of Solar Seal on there wherever there's a post. On this type of window right here, where you got two windows side by side, there's no need to silicone or to Solar Seal that, because it's a flat surface and everything is tight. So the only place where you need to use Solar Seal is going to be wherever you have a structural post. And on the top of the 1x2 all the way around the room, you want to go ahead and use Solar Seal. And then on the outside, you might want to bring the camera. Wherever you have a cast in that, you want to go ahead and take that Solar Seal and cover up all the seams. So for example, you have a seam up there on that. You can see what it looks like before it's caulked, and then after. So you want to, wherever you see a seam at, where there's a possibility where water could run in there and create a leak, you want to seal it. Which means you would have to seal this little spot right here after the door's installed. Here's another little seal right here where the 2x2 meets the 3x3 post. You want to seal that. All your top posts, castings, and your bottoms. And then on the inside of the room, you want to get clear silicone and put a small bead all around the whole perimeter of the bottom of the room. And that pretty much, once you get that done, you want to make sure everything's wiped down and cleaned up. And then before you leave, there's a care kit with instructions on, that you got to give to the homeowner, and they'll tell them exactly how to clean the windows, what to use, and what not to use. And there's also a cleaner in here, and there's a keychain in here, which it's not in here. But this is a care kit that you want to leave there with the homeowner. And it's very important that before you leave, if the homeowners are there, that you go over with them how to operate the windows, because a lot of homeowners, they think those little tabs on the vinyl sashes have to be pushed in to operate them, and they don't. The only purpose for them is to remove the vinyl sashes. So you need to make sure that you explain to them that you just need to operate them up and down, and those tabs are just to remove the sashes. We're gonna start with this one right here with this knee wall. Like I said, once you got your post set, does everybody understand, I guess, the whole where your castings go at, setting your posts, where they go at. Once you set your post, you put your bottom receiver. You can see the notches right here, right now, real good. I took the panel out. But if you want to come in here and look, you can see how they got to be notched. They got to be notched on the inside, like that, and then on the inside of the room for that little casting right there.
Okay, you gotta make sure you talk about the weak bolts.
Yeah.
I showed it one, you just put it on.
You don't have any? Mark, you have any weak ones?
All right. So once you install your bottom receiver, there's no weep holes on this one, but you want to make sure you come 3 inches from each side, 3 inches, and then put one in the middle. So you want to do 3 weep holes, just a 13/64 drill bit, and get as close to the bottom as you can to let water drain out. Once you put your bottom receiver on, another thing I didn't mention, it's on the paperwork, is whether you got quick sets or you got dry pins, you want to make sure you take silicone and go over the head of the screws, and also on the ends where you notch. So you want to make sure you seal that up. Once you do that, this calls for a 12-inch knee wall, so you want to measure up and put a mark a little bit under 12 inches. This one got it at 12. You want to cut 2 pieces. You're going to do the relief cut. Once you do the relief cut, pre-drill 2 holes, stick it inside there, inside the bottom receiver, and fasten it flush to the outside. You do the same thing on both sides. Make sure you put silicone on the back. Once you got that installed, what you want to do is you want to measure in between here, and your panel doesn't have to be the same size. So you can make this one, I got like 47 3/4, you can make it 47. So you go ahead and cut your panel. What I do is after it's cut, I just kind of squeeze my corners in.
You cut that with a skill saw, dude?
Yeah. When you slide it down, try and keep it the same distance, because if you're to one side, what'll happen is it'll scratch it up when you're going down, and then if you try and split difference, you'll see it like that. So just trying to, and then once you get down, start with one end first, and then just once you do that, you cut your top piece. On these, I didn't mention, make sure you do relief cuts on both sides, on the bottom and the top. And just push it, for now, just push it all the way down, because once you set your window, you're going to hold the window up, and then you just take this bottom receiver and just float it up to the window. So once you get this part done, now you're ready to install the window. So you want to grab your window, your panel, not the window. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your silicone and you're going to put like a 1/4 inch bead halfway inside here. You got a 1 inch flange all around this window. You want to come about halfway and put like a 1/4 inch bead on the top, the sides. The bottom doesn't need it, but when you come down, you want to return in 1 inch on both sides when you do that. So you got your window siliconed all the way around. Now you're going to have one person on the inside and one person on the outside. When you handle the window, you want to make sure you grab it like this, because if you get silicone on your hands, silicone is hard to wipe off once you have it on your hands, and if you get silicone on these vinyl sashes, you ain't gonna clean them. You gotta replace them pretty much. Once you have it in place, the person on the outside is gonna go ahead and try and get the top in first. All right. You hold that, just kind of hold the top. Hold it up? Yeah, in place. Then you want to grab the bottom. I'm going to grab my rubber hammer, be like this. You want to stick one side in, and the other side. If you're going to tap it with the hammer, make sure you tap it right here where this part is, because if you hit it up here, it might bend that. So just kind of hit it right there, and as you're pushing in, so just pop right there in place. All right, so that's that right there. I'm gonna go ahead and come down 1 inch, inch there, inch here, and I'm gonna take a pencil and mark where all the sashes kind of come together on that one point. So I'm gonna mark it right there. Once you mark it with a pencil, he's gonna hold it all the way up tight on the inside, and then I'm gonna start putting the white text on here. And there's going to get one right here where the spreader bar is. There's going to get one right there. Now, these windows, like I said, they have those black tabs. So he's going to bring the first one. I'm going to put my hand right here. So just bring this top sash. No, right there. Yep, so once he does that, I'll go ahead and put this one. Next one. I'm gonna go ahead and lift up the window so you can get your hand. Alright, hold on, let me get these two bottom ones. And you wanna come an inch above this bottom track right here. Before you do this bottom one here in the middle, you gotta take the receiver and make sure it's all the way up. Once he does that and he says he's ready, then you go ahead and put that bottom tag on there, and that window's done. That window's installed. You're gonna put two pot rivets right where the receivers cross on that one corner, so it doesn't sag down and stays just on the inside. See the pencil mark? They don't need them on the outside because the 1-inch flange is covering that receiver. Receiver and your solder receiver on here. Does everybody understand how this got fastened on the siding? You figure out if your post was 1 inch in or ½ inch in, you come over here and put a mark, ½ inch in or an inch, wherever that, to keep the reveal of this 1x2 the same, you put a mark, and then you cut like a 2.5 inch opening, and that'll give you enough room to put J channel and your receiver, and then you can just bring this tight to that receiver. So once you get, what was that?
You level down from that more.
Yeah, you level down. Well, by that time, this receiver, you got this receiver on here already, which you did that and level down. So once you got that done, your first piece you're gonna cut is gonna be your 1x2. So you stick your tape inside the receiver to this post right here, and you make it ½ inch, 3/4 inch shorter than what that is. You take it to the saw. Your window right here is 31 7/16. So you want to hold it on that end. Put a pencil mark right there, 31 7/16. Get your punch box and go ahead and punch it and pre-drill the holes to accept this 3x2. So, and then go ahead and put pre-drill holes right there to fasten the 1x2 to the top. Once that's done, on the bottom you're going to get a 3x2. So you do the same thing. You spline groove all these faces the outside when you're doing a bottom 3x2. So you're gonna, once you cut it, the same thing, you measure it, cut it a ½ inch, 3/4 inches shorter. Hold your tape on that one end and mark 31 7/16. Once you do that, you're gonna take a punch box, you're gonna punch your holes up here, drill them, then on the bottom, you're gonna cut a notch out so you'll be able to take your framing screws and frame screws. So once you get done, you're basically gonna have an eye with this. You get your top 1x2, your 3x2, and your bottom 3x2. So you bring it in here, you're going to slide your bottom inside that receiver on the wall. Once you get that done, you're going to slide it on the bottom receiver, push it all the way down, and then push it over to that post. And then you take the top one, do the same thing, stick it inside there, because this is going to drop down more, so you're going to have plenty of room up there. You stick the 1x2 inside the receiver, bring it in, and then hold it flush to this post like that. Once you hold it flush to that post and you screw it, you're going to have 31 7/16 exactly from here and there. So once you got the top fastened, your bottom is not fastened yet. It's pretty much free floating. That's when you're going to take a 2x2. You're going to look at on the layout, and your window's 97 inches. So you want to cut this 97 inches exactly. Once you cut your 2x2 97 inches, you're going to hold it up here tight against that 1x2. And you'll take this 3x2, lift it up tight, and put that tack right there. That's going to give you your opening. Because this right here is already set at 97, so that's going to give you a 97 there. And then you come back here. What I do is before I set this, I'll take my tape measure, and I'll mark it right there and put a mark at 31 7/16. So when you slide your post in there, your 2x2, you got your mark already, and you got your height already predetermined because this is 97 inches. So you put it on your mark, you hold the 3x2 up, you put a tack on the bottom to hold the 3x2 up, and then you put a tack to hold the 2x2 so it won't slide in and out. And then you do the same thing on the top. Measure your 37 7/16 and put a tack so it won't slide out. Basically, once you get that done, she's ready for windows. panels.
There you go.
So how much, when you already have that receiver up top, right?
That 1x2.
Right, so what do you cut that, you're saying you cut that post that much shorter so you can go in and down and then
No,
get past?
you cut this to whatever your window,
Is 90.
whatever your window is. Because that's gonna, but when you frame screw this together, that's gonna be your height.
Opening.
I'm with you on that.
DLO.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, in order, you made that T or that I.
Right.
Now you slide it in and drop it down into here.
right. Yeah, your height, when they come in here and measure,
You're able to slide it in
Yeah,
past the
yeah,
1-inch leg drop
exactly.
and
Yep.
then lift up. That's what.
yep,
There you go.
yep, yep,
So
yep.
down at the bottom there, you're liable to be almost 4.5 inches or
Exactly.
something.
Yep, yep.
You know, from the build up.
There
Okay.
is times, and it happens quite a bit, where you're doing a porch that's like 16 foot long, and you got slope. So you can't order the windows this height, because by the time you get over there, that 3x2 might stick out past.
Right.
So what you gotta do is, you gotta measure, and you gotta take that bottom 3x2, and you gotta rip it like an inch to like nothing on one side. Once you have everything in place and everything, now once again you take your silicone all around the window, and we're gonna go ahead and. Like I said, the person on the outside just holds the window up like this until the person on the inside has it.
I got it.
There you go. And then, once you get that done, you do the same steps. Lift the window all the way up, you mark it. No, this one's not tight, that one's just in there like that. But, and then you have another one that comes in here the same way. Boop, falls in there like that. So that's your installation on the full height vinyl panel. Right. After your windows are set, your next step is going to be the door. So you're going to grab your door. Set it in place. Once you set it in place, you're going to go ahead and get your pencil, put a mark on his outside edge, and you open the door, and put a mark on the inside edge. Put a mark on there. And that's just give you a little guideline so you know when you cut not to come past that line because it'll be seen. So once you got that mark, then you want to take your pencil mark and you want to mark the top and bottom of your opening for your deadbolt and your doorknob. Once you do that, like I said, if it's concrete, you got to get your hammer drill bit and you want to mark these 3 holes on your threshold. If it's wood, you don't have to, but if it's concrete, you want to mark that. Remove the door. Now the whole purpose of that bottom notch, I don't know if everybody wants to come in here and see, but this plate right here where the doorknob is, has that little tab sticking out that won't let you go flush to this post unless you notch it out. That tab right there. So that's the whole reason. And then the top one, if you don't notch it, when you close your deadbolt, it only go that far. It won't go all the way. So that's why you got to cut that notch in there to allow the threshold to shut all the way. So now you got your mark. You're going to take your saw. You're going to cut it. Like I said, you can go past. And as long as you don't go past this line here and this line right here, you're good. Always when you make your pencil marks for your deadbolt and doorknob, go an inch past top and bottom in case when you adjust the door for the reveal, in case it goes up and down. Once you got that notched out and cut out, take your hammer drill where you will mark your holes and drill them all the way down. Take your blue plugs and tap them in there. Once you got that part done, take your broom and make sure you got all the dust and everything cleaned up, and then grab your silicone and you're going to put a bead of silicone from one side, just go from the middle of the post all the way over. Just in silicone the 2 sides of the door. Once you get that done, you're gonna grab the door. Like I said, be careful how you grab it. You don't want to get silicone on your hands. You want to pick it up, and you don't want to drag it in there because of that silicone you got on the bottom. You want to pick it up higher. And then just set it down. And set it in place. Once it's all in there, once you have it in there, your next step is going to be this reveal right here. Lots of times, if your door is on the side wall that's going against the slope or with the slope, you either got to pick one side up and get your reveal straight right here. It's very important to get your reveal straight, which in this case is on the level wall, so we're good. Get the reveal straight. The first one you want to put in is on the inside top. That one right there, and then your bottom. Once you get that done, and you do that, you go ahead and do this top one. And the reason why you do that top one is because you really can't move this out or in because it's attached to this top piece. So it is what it is. And then the same with this bottom one. So then your next step is going to be kind of much look at the reveal, kind of get it where you want it. Put one there. And one there. Once you do that, before you put any more screws, go ahead and open the door and make sure everything lines up in here with the holes you notched. Once it does, you go ahead and put the rest of the screws in. Now you see how this door is kind of dragging there a little bit? That's when you pre-drill these screws right here where the hinges is at, it's going to take this door, and once you tighten that up, it's going to actually set it back a little bit. So once you got all your screws fastened all around the outside, you want to start doing the inside ones, which when you have a post, you want to pre-drill with a 5/32, and then these doors that bring these flat screws,
Let me
and
see.
those are the ones you want to use. Wrong one.
Just got all those drivers in there. You don't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah, right. My boy hooked me up. But you want to set that one. Look at your reveal. If you're happy with it and everything's good, then go ahead and continue and pre-drill all these screws right here. Put them in place. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side, and you got, well, you can't do the 3 on the top because you haven't got that far yet, but so go ahead and do that. Once you got that done, get the same screws because you got those plugs in there, and put the screws on this bottom. You go ahead and fasten it in. Once you get that, you take this, I always start with the doorknob. Go ahead and put your doorknob in, put it in place. And once you have it in place, you go ahead and test it. Like I said, if it's loose, you want to take this plate, loosen it up, and just kick it in a little bit. That'll make it tighter. If it's tight to the point where when you close it, it's just not doing nothing, I mean it's not latching. So that means you got to take this plate and bring it out a little bit. So once you get it adjusted to where it works right, then you're going to go with your deadbolt. You're going to install your deadbolt. And once you have it installed, you're going to go ahead and, it don't work. You go ahead and try it out. Once you close it, if you feel like it's dragging, then you pretty much got to move it in and out until it gets to the point where it works, where there's no restriction on now. All right, so now you got the door installed, you got the hardware done, the door's closed. Once that's done, these doors have like a plastic tab that's already pre-cut, you don't have to cut it, that slides in here. You just take one side, you put it in, get your rubber hammer real lightly and just tap it in, all 3 sides. Once you get that done, you want to take the 2x2, which should be 36 inches, cut it, put silicone on top here, put the 2x2 with the spline grooves facing up, set it in place and put your 3 screws in here. And then you got 3 more on the bottom. So make sure you do them. Once you do that, you take your top transom. Like I said, it has that 2-sided sticky tape. You want to pull that out, take silicone, a small bead. You don't need a lot because then you have a lot of squeeze out all the way around. You set it in place. Once you set it in place, use this spline groove as your guide for the first screw. So you're going to put one there, put one here, take your tape measure, measure 7 inches, do the same thing on the top and put one there and put one on the other side. So once your door is done, you got the windows in, you got the door done, your next step is going to be to seal the room. So like I said, one person on the outside, one person on the inside, you're going to take, this is what it looked like before the solar seal, and that's what it looks like after. So every seam you see, you want to seal it up, like that one, this one right here, that one right there. This one right here, you can see the spline groove, so you want to go ahead and definitely do that one on the top and top and bottom. And then on the inside of the room, wherever there's a post, you want to take your solar seal and run solar seal wherever you have a post at. On the windows, on the door. If you have a top transom, you want to seal all around that top transom and then all around the 1x2 on the top and around the casting. And then in this case over here, this receiver, you will go ahead and use solar seal on the inside and outside. Well, on this one is flush, you don't want to do the outside but the inside. Where you got the J channel, you don't have to solar seal where the J channel is at. And once you got that done, you wipe everything down. If you took any furniture out, you put the furniture back. And like I said, before you leave, you talk to the homeowner, show them how to use the sashes so they're not using the tabs. Because lots of times when they use the tabs, the sashes pop out a little bit and they leave it like that, and any little wind will knock them down, and then they're wondering why it don't lock up. So make sure you take your time to explain to them how they operate. And that's it.